Have you ever wondered what a successful B2B LinkedIn marketing strategy looks like? Why is it that some accounts do so much better on LinkedIn than others? In this episode of the Megan Taylor Creator Podcast, I'll be giving you my roadmap that you can use to start generating quality leads for your business on everyone's favorite networking platform, LinkedIn. Let's get started. So in this episode of the Megan Taylor Creative Podcast, I wanted to sit down and share with you the roadmap that I'm using currently to build my personal brand, but also I have used to help execute LinkedIn marketing strategies for B2B businesses. And the reason why I felt like now was a really good time to do this episode, there are two reasons. Firstly, I find that everyone is currently using LinkedIn, and with good reason. It's a powerful platform for businesses to find new opportunities and to grow their network and build awareness in a place where everyone is looking to upscale themselves and boost their career. So with that in mind, I wanted to start this episode off by talking about why you should be using LinkedIn for your B2B business. And as I've already alluded to, LinkedIn is primarily a B2B social media platform that was developed as a space for professionals to network with other professionals. This makes LinkedIn a natural place to identify and act upon business opportunities and to just grow their network so that they can meet like-minded people and spread awareness about their business. And ultimately, by being an active user on LinkedIn, you can take advantage of its huge user base, of which over half of those users are active on LinkedIn on a daily basis. So there's obviously ample opportunity there for you to really tap into your audience's interests and get your content shown, because LinkedIn is used so often by networks on a daily basis. So now that we know why you should be using LinkedIn, we need to take a look at how the LinkedIn algorithm works. And LinkedIn is a slightly different social media platform compared to other platforms like Twitter or Facebook or Instagram, where frequency plays a much bigger role in the content that's shown on your feed. LinkedIn's algorithm generally looks for relevancy. In other words, it searches for the most relevant content that is relevant to your profile. So this means that as content creators, we really need to understand our target audience. And I'll go more into how you can identify your target audience and the ways that they use LinkedIn later on in the podcast episode. But generally speaking, it's really important to understand things like their interests and their demographic and their job title as well. Obviously, that plays a major role because LinkedIn is primarily a B2B social media platform. So that's super key, super important to being able to leverage LinkedIn to its fullest, is by really getting to know your target audience and then creating super targeted content. Those content creators that you see that are doing really well normally really understand their target audience to a T. They know what their pain points are, they know what job they're in, they know what struggles they have on a daily basis, and they make content around that. So if you really want to succeed, understanding how the algorithm actually finds new content for your network and then understanding how to craft that type of content is going to be key. So we've just spoken about the LinkedIn algorithm and how it works. Let's take a look at how you get started creating a LinkedIn marketing strategy for B2B. And these are the elements that I found really make a successful B2B LinkedIn marketing strategy. If you take a look at a lot of the content on LinkedIn, specifically in the B2B space, so even if it's a B2C business, it might be slightly different, but specifically for B2B businesses, this is generally their approach I have found to making content that makes their account and their page have long-lasting success. So the first element is harmonious content. And what I mean by this is that everything everything is branded, you talk about similar topics, and your content follows a theme. You'll also want to use your page to make sure that you have curated something that has a similar vision to what you originally wrote down when you were identifying the vision that you wanted to implement for your business. So that's what I mean by harmonious content. I do think that being harmonious in terms of branding is a lot more important on LinkedIn than other platforms, because it is a professional platform, and I think that people have higher expectations of what they think content should look like. So that is something to be mindful of. There's a lot of pressure when it comes to posting on LinkedIn, but if you want to appease some of that pressure, it's really good to focus on, when you first start posting, how you are actually going to make sure that your content works really well together in terms of theme, in terms of your tone of voice, in terms of formatting, content formatting. I find that really attractive. LinkedIn pages normally have favorite LinkedIn content formats that they like to follow, and that makes their content really work well together, and you can really get an understanding of what they're all about. So that's something to consider. The next element of a successful B2B LinkedIn marketing strategy is simple content. And I think one of the reasons why I was so hesitant to post on LinkedIn for so long for my personal brand is because I had approached LinkedIn from the perspective of a professional brand, and with that there's a lot at stake, and obviously you really want to present your brand in a professional way, but professional doesn't have to mean complicated. I think that sometimes simple content is really overlooked. The reason why simple content is so important is because it's easy to consume, it's easy for your audience to understand what it is that you're actually trying to say, and it's also a lot more easy for you to be your true authentic self. And despite what people might believe, being authentic is still really important on LinkedIn. Next, we have actionable content. When I say actionable content, I don't necessarily mean, you have to be making sales with every piece of content that you're posting on LinkedIn. I just mean that you want to leverage direct response copywriting, and I did a video on direct response copywriting last week, so I will link that in the description box below so that you can see that. And generally speaking, I know that there's a bit of controversy amongst content creators as to whether or not you should put a CTA in every post, but I personally believe that you are providing value, free value, just by posting on LinkedIn. So you have essentially earned the right to put that CTA into your content. I think that is only fair. There's a little bit of a give and take, and I think that again, people are using LinkedIn as a place to advance their career, so it's not really a surprise then that people are also trying to take the platform and leverage it as an opportunity to seek business growth and business opportunities. So personally, I would include CTAs, not necessarily in every post, but you do also want to be cognizant that you're here to generate business opportunities, and also you spending so much time delivering free value definitely warrants you being able to also seek and identify those opportunities. That said, the approach to CTAs may be different depending on your target audience and at what stage of the sales funnel that content is at. So if it's purely awareness stage content, then you'll probably want to take a softer approach. Maybe instead of booking a discovery call, maybe the CTA could be as simple as something like subscribing to your newsletter, because that gives the prospect an option. They don't feel like they're being pedestaled into doing something. Whereas if you just say, oh, you can subscribe to my newsletter to find out more, that's giving them the choice, and they're more likely to, if you've written your content and your copy well, to actually take that action. And the last element that I have seen in successful B2B LinkedIn marketing strategies is community building content. Community building content on LinkedIn is different on other platforms because of the features on LinkedIn. Community building content is way more suited for not necessarily the typical feed posts, but newsletters specifically, and also if you create LinkedIn groups too. It's good to use those features so that you can continue to grow your audience outside of the feed. Obviously, you can use the feed and you can create content around comments you get and things like that, so direct responses to audience questions. But generally speaking, I find that other features on LinkedIn for building content is beneficial. So now that we know what a successful B2B LinkedIn marketing strategy looks like, let's look at how to actually plan an effective B2B content marketing strategy for LinkedIn. The first step is to identify your target audience and their pain points. At the end of the day, you're making content for your target audience, so this needs to be the first step, because without knowing what their likes are and what their dislikes are and the really key pieces of information, you won't be able to create targeted content. And I go back to how the LinkedIn algorithm works in this case, and I want you to specifically focus on relevancy. So it really helps in understanding your target audience on LinkedIn to actually look at profiles, so examples of profiles, and obviously you can just do this passively in organic search, or if you want to, you can invest in Sales Navigator. I think it's like £60 or something like that for lifetime use. It might have changed since I've used it, and it's very valuable because it really helps you to identify interests and the demographic, as well as whether or not they're a first or second degree connection, which is really important because connections are something that LinkedIn uses as well to understand how relevant a piece of content is going to be. So for example, LinkedIn is way more likely to show you a piece of content that was posted by a first degree connection, so someone who is actually in your network on LinkedIn, in comparison to someone who has a lot of similar connections to you but isn't actually in your network. So that is something that's important to remember. Sales Navigator just helps you understand and identify those pain points and will just generate profiles that they think match your criteria. But you want to go beyond the typical data. You also want to understand what their pain points are. So take a look at the activity on the profile and see if they've commented on any posts, see if they've asked any questions on other creators' posts, and write them down, because if they've gone unanswered, then you can connect with them and then create a post around that, and that really prove to your audience that you understand what they're going through. The next thing to consider when you're planning an effective content strategy for LinkedIn is to decide on your posting schedule and frequency. This is a much smaller element of a content strategy regardless of what channel you're planning, but it is something that you need to consider regardless. And for LinkedIn, I would recommend posting no more than 2 times a day. It would be good if you could post every day, even though relevancy is the most important factor that the algorithm considers when it's identifying what content to show to users. It's still important to basically boost your chances of your content being shown in your network's feed by posting every day. And I personally am trying to post multiple times a day, although that doesn't always happen, but I at least try to post 5 times a week. That's my minimum amount, and then if I can post more than that, I will. But you don't really want to be posting under 20 times a month, because then you're not really leveraging LinkedIn as the platform that it is. So that would be a good approach, is to start by posting 5 days a week. If you can boost it up to 2 times a day throughout the entire week, then that's gonna put you in a really good place. But there is no concrete roadmap for actually posting and how often you should be posting. It is completely up to you and how far you want to take it. And the next thing that you need to consider when you're creating your content strategy for LinkedIn is what the most relevant type of content is within your industry in terms of content trends and formats. What I mean by this is, how are people formatting their content? What features of LinkedIn are people using the most in your industry? Because this is a really good indicator as to what type of content your target audience actually interacts with the most. A really big example in the marketing industry is carousels, and I feel like carousels is a particular popular feature across all industries, because LinkedIn, I believe they've actually started to roll out posting carousels as a feature. Before, the way you would post carousels, and I think this is typically still how you would do it, is by downloading whatever graphics you've made as a PDF and uploading it as a document, and then whatever graphics you created, it will be a swipeable element in the post. So that's a really popular feature because, again, it's swipeable and it's attractive to look at. But for other industries, text-based posts might be preferable, but you can do things like only writing in 1-sentence paragraphs, also using things like emojis to kind of format it. There's like number emojis, so if you're writing a bullet pointed list post, you can either put check marks, indexed fingers, or use the 1, 2, 3 emojis to to make your content appealing. And that's what you want to remember. Content and how you shape your content and how you distribute it on LinkedIn plays a really big role in whether or not people choose to actually interact with your content. It can just be a simple text-based post, but I think that content that goes beyond that also does really well. It just shows a bit of innovation and that you're kind of in keeping with the times and the preferred ways that people like content to be made. The next thing to remember when you're crafting content and the tactics that you want to implement is that you want to write for humans. Although we're kind of putting our faith and trust in a bot that scales LinkedIn and the thousands and thousands of profiles on there, as well as the type of content on there and your network's activities, you're still writing for humans, and how professional and how corporate you speak entirely depends on the sort of person that you're talking to. If you're talking to C-suite execs who are very busy and don't really have much time for fluff or more community building content, they just want answers and they want to get to the meat of the matter and they want an immediate solution, then you may want to consider adopting a more formal approach. Whereas if you're talking to small business owners and solopreneurs, you might be able to get away with a more informal approach with your content. So that means you can post more personal content. Regardless of what approach you take though, I don't recommend just posting promotional content. I think people do like to understand more about the brand, whether that be just sharing brand values or sharing updates behind the scenes, how you do things in your office, your approach to particular projects. You can still be innovative and appeal to professionals. I don't think promotional posts that are solely just sharing products or service updates or anything like that are going to do as well. You can still include them in your mix, but they shouldn't be the heart and soul of your LinkedIn content strategy. So just remember that you're writing for humans, that you want to come across as a brand that has personality, that has values, but you're still appealing to professionals. So it's up to you to decide what the balance is there. And again, knowing who your target audience is will help you to actually understand that. The last piece of advice that I would have for you regarding your B2B LinkedIn marketing strategy is to leverage LinkedIn articles. And the reason why I would leverage LinkedIn articles is because it's great for authority and it's also great for reach as well. People can share those articles and they can add comments on them, and then if their network sees those articles and they're interested in it, then they might go and follow your page and things like that, and it can really help to boost your image and set you as a thought leader in your industry. So yeah, that's it. That's everything I have for you in today's video. If you like this video, please like. If you liked this video, please give us a thumbs up on YouTube and also subscribe to our channel so that you can be made aware of any new content as it drops. And as always, I will speak to you next time. Thank you so much for listening. Bye.